Welcome to Nature's Guardians. I'm Micah Siegel. Each week, I talk with people working to help and save animals around the world. We're here to have fun learning about endangered species. Today, I'm talking with James Larkin and Jessica Babbage from Isotope. Welcome to the show, James and Jessica.
Thank you for having us
Yeah, thanks for having us.
with
Okay,
different. Carry on.
so what's the problem you guys are trying to solve with Isotope?
Jess, over to you.
Wow. Thanks, Micah. Problem that we are trying to solve, the particular problem, is to stop the poaching of rhinos for their horns. And the way that we are trying to solve this problem is by using, for the first time ever, nuclear technology in the path to helping us protect the species. And by doing protection of the species, we can protect habitats and communities of people at the same time.
Why do people want to poach rhinos?
Oh, that's a great question. The reality is that no matter where you are in the world, a rhino matters. And the reason for this is because their horns are the most valuable false commodity on the black market.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys in your audience knows what the black market is, but in short, it's the four worst crimes that happen that affect everyone in a bad way. The biggest one is weapons, and then you get drugs, you get wildlife trafficking, and you get human trafficking. So where you get one of these, you always get at least one other. And the rhino horn is almost used like a currency on these black market trades. And the terrible part is that they don't just cut the horn off and leave the rhino alive. They kill the rhino. And there's been so much of this going on that we're losing so many rhinos. And certain species are almost extinct, like the Javan and the Sumatran rhinos.
Yeah.
So we are trying to do something about it. And that's where James comes in, because he's the nuclear security guy and he understands the world of nuclear. And by using nuclear tech, we think we can change things around. And that's what we're going to try and do.
So you're putting nuclear radioactive substances into rhino horns while the
Yeah,
rhino is alive and the horn onto the
it's
rhino. Does it hurt the
yes,
rhino?
no.
No,
I've
no.
spent 2 years now with a high-powered computer creating this model of the digital model of the head of a rhino, and then using that model, we've then used other software to be able to look at the dose assessment. And it's only more recently, if you like, because I have this access to this computing power, that we've been able to run these models in a really sensible period of time. I created the model and to sort of look at a particular modeling scenario still takes the computer an hour to crunch those numbers. It's doing millions and millions and millions of calculations per second. And it takes a lot of that sort of computing power. Had I tried to do this 10 or 15 years ago, it would probably have taken me a week to run a model. So the advances in the technology, advances in my understanding, have allowed us to get to this situation. And then I've been so fortunate that I met my colleague Jess, who then helped me to go and meet owners of rhinos. And Jess then has blazed a trail. She's had to learn nuclear science, a lot of nuclear science in a very short period of time. So she could talk to the owners of these animals and tell them the story of what it is. Jess, over to you. And you can tell the story much better, but it's there you go.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, here's the fun thing. What I learned about nuclear was a lot. What I learned, I always used to think about atom bombs and explosions and crazy stuff. And then I started to meet James and learn about nuclear. And I realized we've got nuclear tech all around us every single day. Even a banana is radioactive. I had so much fun looking at things about why a banana is radioactive and how. It was great. It was really cool. And they use nuclear tech in human medicine and to help preserve foods. And it's really the most cool and amazing field. So this is why it's so exciting, is because we're taking something like nuclear, which is super, nobody's ever done it before. And James, through his careful work with colleagues around the world, has been able to find out what type of nuclear technology can be put into the horn of a rhino, totally safe for the animal. It's all about the animal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
This is what we did recently. Yeah, we put radioisotopes into the horns of 20 animals, 18 white rhino and 2 black rhino, which was super, super cool. And the whole point of using nuclear tech is, you see, one of the problems is when a horn gets poached, it has to go from when that animal is killed to its destination market somewhere else in the world. And what exists at the moment is a multi-billion-dollar nuclear safety infrastructure. There's all sorts of things called portal monitors at ports of entry around the world. And so it is illegal for you or me or any, you don't just rock up at the store and go, hi, could I get some isotopes over the counter, please? Because that just wouldn't be allowed, because you've got to be super careful with nuclear stuff. It's all about safety and regulations. So we've done this in the proper manner, doing it 100% safely, so that if a horn gets poached, the chances of it getting detected around the world now are increased a lot. At the moment, the smugglers can get them through all sorts of places without being detected. So now we're increasing the chances of detection. So that's very important. We want to also make sure that the people on the ground here and the communities that live around rhinos are aware that we are also doing things to help protect them as people in those communities. And there's different things and projects that we do to bring benefits to people in the name of a rhino. So now a living rhino has more value than a dead one. And if a horn gets poached, not only are we increasing those detection capabilities, but if someone gets caught with that, the sentences are much, much harsher because of nuclear safety regulations. And also, like James and I have said many times, if I suddenly said to you, hi, I've got a great present for you. Would you like this horn? It's radioactive, but don't worry about that. You can have it. It's a great gift. How would you feel? Would you feel comfortable taking that horn?
Not at all. But I don't really know, what can radioactive rhino horns do to a person? Like, um, can they make you sick, or do they really not do anything at all?
Well, you don't want to go to jail. It's not like James wants to put stuff into horns that's going to kill things. We're not murderers. Um, I think the most important thing is to know that if something's radioactive, you need to be respectful of that. You need to be respectful of that. When they use nuclear medicine and things like that, they're so carefully calculated in terms of their dosages. And so James's sort of idea and the technology is not to hurt people, but certainly to put them off a very healthy respect of nuclear and radioactive tech, which is exactly the way it should be.
But the poachers, when they're going in, they find a rhino, they're on their helicopters, they've spotted one, it has a really large horn. They don't know if it's radioactive or not. They just take it. So the rhino's
Yeah.
still dying, right?
Well, one of the things that we craft very carefully. So these are the titles of talks that I've done, and now I've added the extra layer with the science. So the one thing is rhinos saving people. And when you say that, people go, oh my gosh, how on earth can a rhino save me? Well, the reason for that is by working with communities on the ground. Your communities are the people that are living closest to these animals, and they're the ones that are the most vulnerable. That's where the poachers are going to come through. They're going to bring weapons, they're going to bring drugs. Most people do not want that in their communities.
Yeah.
And so one of the parts of the project that we're doing is that we are sourcing funding and working with people that are helping support this project so that we bring awesome things into communities in the name of rhinos. So, for example, imagine this. Imagine you live in a village in Africa. Imagine that your village struggles for water. You don't just have a tap that you can go turn on. How do you wash? How do you clean your teeth? How do you drink? How do you give water to your animals? How do you grow plants? So water is life. Now imagine if we come in and we speak to people and we educate them about why rhinos are important, why they matter, and why the community matters. Imagine now that in the name of that animal, you wake up one morning and you have a whole new borehole with a huge water tank, with a massive rhino printed on the water tank that supplies water for every living thing. Now, that animal means something to you. And so when spreading the message about the nuclear technology that's in the horns, that is a very powerful tool. Your voice and your words and communicating is the most powerful tool that we start on the ground. We couple that with amazing campaigns so that people are aware of the species and how the species is protecting them.
What is an isotope?
In the world, we have atoms, and atoms are made up of a nucleus. Sorry, I have to explain with my hands, which are made up of protons and neutrons, and then rushing around the outside of it is electrons. Now, an atom, if it's a gold atom, it has so many protons and neutrons, and if it's an iron atom, it has a different number of protons and neutrons. And in certain circumstances, the protons tell us what the chemistry is of that isotope. So if you've got 23 protons in there, then it's all the same chemistry. But if you have additional neutrons, which sometimes you have, that then the differing number of neutrons determines what isotope that is, say, of iron or of cobalt. Now, some of those nuclei are unstable because we pack the protons and neutrons together, and sometimes they don't pack together very well. So what it wants to do is try and rearrange itself and eject, say, a neutron coming off, or a helium atom, a helium nucleus, or something like that. And this is what's called radioactivity, giving off these radioactive particles to allow the nucleus to become into a more stable configuration. That's not a great example, but that's what's happening. And so we are using those properties, and we're using a particular radioisotope that gives off what we call gamma rays. Now, gamma rays are part of what we call the electromagnetic spectrum. So that's light, it's radio waves, X-rays, gamma rays. What you want to think about is what we've done is we've put this very, very bright light into the horn of bright lights into the horn of a rhino. Us as human beings, we can't see it because we don't have the right detection equipment in our eyes, but we can make the right detection equipment, which is what we call portal monitors. And these monitors then will see, if you like, the bright light coming off the horn as it goes through these detector systems. If it's an airport, so someone might be smuggling horn in a suitcase, or they might put it into a container, into what you might call a Connex container, or into some sort of cargo. This light is so bright that it will shine through a lot of material. So if you want to dim that light enough, you have to put lots and lots and lots of very dense material between the light and the detector. So if you want to think about it, you've got a light and you've got to close lots and lots and lots and lots of sets of curtains to dim that light to the point where the detector doesn't see it. And so that's why we're using radioisotopes. So it sits like a beacon, and it allows us to set up what we call a passive system. So rather than having some person sitting in front of an X-ray machine watching the bags go past, I'm sure if you watch the kind of border security programs on TV or on satellite or whatever, you'll see
Yeah.
the guys looking at a screen and they'll see an X-ray come past. Now it takes a bit of training, and it becomes difficult to continuously watch that screen for more than half an hour at a time. And that's one way of detecting rhino horn at the moment. Another way is to use dogs that have been trained to sniff out rhino horn. And that means that there are, say, maybe 1,000 people in the world who are good at doing that sort of thing. But it means you've got to send them out and say, hey, go and search that container hall, that shipyard, or that warehouse to look and see if there's radioactive material, to look to see if there's horn in there. And so that's a very much an active process. What we've done is we've turned this into a passive process. So really the baggage guys who are checking the X-ray turns on the unit, and also means that as the trucks come through, they go through these big portal monitors. So these are big boxes that you'll see at border crossings. Trucks go past there, and if an alarm goes off, well, then they say, okay, move that truck over there, the 18-wheeler over there, or we move the vehicle, the van over there, and you can inspect it because the light that's in it is the beacon is flashing, if you like, and it's set it off. And the beauty for us is the guys and girls who are operating these systems already know what to do because they've got the training. This is a system that they're used to using because they are looking for nuclear material or radioactive material. And then when our rhino horn comes past, they say, the alarm has gone off. We put that machine, that truck, that cargo over there, and we'll come and do what we call a secondary inspection, which is come along with more sophisticated equipment, open it all up and have a look inside and say, please explain to us why you've got rhino horn in there, or elephant ivory with the rhino horn, or pangolin scale, or things like that. Because as Jess was telling us earlier on, there are these four main crimes, black market crimes going on in the world. What she didn't tell you is illicit wildlife trafficking and illicit logging annually is worth something like $2 trillion a year. Not with an M,
Wow.
not with a B, but with a T, trillion. So that's an awful lot of zeros afterwards. That's
I'll
when the
tell you
scientists
this.
come along and start using scientific notation. But if you go and speak to your maths teacher and say, write out 1 trillion on the board, he's going to run out of chalk or marker very quickly as he keeps writing all of the zeros. It's that bad.
Yeah.
I just want to mention, James, just correct one thing. That $2 trillion plus is
Yeah.
all four of the black market crimes together
Is it?
and
Well,
growing. The
it's
wildlife crime is over 23 billion US
yeah.
dollars. And James has mentioned something really important. The wildlife trafficking covers everything, trees, the logging industry. As James said, I think that's probably just one of the most expensive. The world's most trafficked animal is the pangolin. The world's most valuable false commodity is the rhino horn. And there's so much of this going on. We're losing our magical earth far too quickly. And that's one of the visions of the project is the nuclear technology now is working in rhino horn, yeah. But James is working with people around the world that are doing other amazing things, elephant tusks and pangolins and hopefully plants and things like that. Who knows where the development of this nuclear technology is going to take us? It's amazing. And if we can continue to get this right, imagine how that will change the game. Because the place where we did the work is in the Waterberg in Limpopo. And we have now the world's pretty much the second largest remaining population of rhinos on Earth. And South Africa has the largest population of white rhinos. And Africa is the home to the majority of the rhinos. The Indian or one-horned rhinos luckily started to recover, but the Javan and the Sumatran rhinos are almost gone. The
Yeah.
Sumatran rhino, I think there's only 36 to 42 or something animals left. And I heard about new crime syndicates that are operating there that are trying to push even those last few into extinction. And that would be a terrible thing to do for a species that's been walking this earth for millions of years, long before hominids, the rhino ancestors, were walking this earth. You know, we've got
Yeah,
to look after what we've got.
yeah. Extinction is forever. You
Yeah.
know, I think it's people say, oh, they're going to go extinct, and people think, oh, well, you know, we might find ways to bring them back. We haven't yet successfully resurrected. I'm scratching, you know, kind of racking my brains to see, have we actually successfully resurrected any extinct species? And the answer, as far as I know, is no.
Yeah.
So if it's gone, it's gone. You know, children your age will not then get to be able to go to Africa or come to Africa, go to India to see one of these majestic and magnificent animals in the wild. You might see it at the local zoo, but you won't see it in a wild setting. It's gone.
So walk us through the process from, darting the rhino to sticking the isotope in the horn to selling it on the black market, what I know you guys don't do, but the whole process of where that rhino horn really goes.
Wow. Well, there's different parts to that story, really. So we work with amazing vets. And you must remember that veterinary medicine has evolved into this incredible art, this incredible science. And so when we worked with the rhinos, they were given just the right amount of dosage to make them sleepy. We didn't want to put them under too heavily. That's one of the other things we're trying to achieve is if you do things like dehorning, that's a very long process. It's very stressful for the animal. It's really noisy. And you know what? A lot of people do that because they feel like they don't have an option. It's the best way to try and save the rhinos, which we completely understand. But the rhino does need its horn. It's kind of needed for a few million years and it needs it now. So the vets come in and they dart them. They get nice and sleepy so that they are not moving around. James then comes in with his awesome Uber drills and his isotopes and his insertion tools and his procedure. And then what we do is proceed to drill in certain ways, in certain places into the horn so that he can put radioisotopes in. And then those are sealed. We mark it with a special spray called data dots, which is almost like a little fingerprint in a can, in a spray. And each rhino has got its own particular microdot, so that even that can never be removed. Once it's sprayed inside the horn, it's there, and you can actually find it under fluorescent light. So that's kind of like a little silent tracking system that we've added into the mix there. And then from there, we reverse, and the animal goes, and within 10 minutes, he's or she is up and walking and happy as Larry. And there's your safe rhino. But the problem is that poaching is linked to syndicates. And so when you get poachers that come in, they always work on inside information. They're always scouting. They've got a very particular way. They will drop poachers off somewhere and they will walk kilometers, even at night. They will live in the hillsides for days, weeks. If you had to use a movie expression, they're casing the joint. They want to see who's who. They want to know where's where. They want to get a pattern. They want to understand. And then when the chance opens up, they will go and they will kill the animals, even the babies, take the
Yeah,
horns, and then run. And then they will be picked up by somebody. So to make you understand in a different way, poaching has 5 levels. One is level 1 on the ground, the guys that actually go and do the poaching and get the horn. Then you get the level 2, which is like the handler, who then passes it on to level 3, and there's fixers and handlers and stuff in between. So the middle guy then gets it, and it's already on its way to the consumer markets. Then it'll be picked up by level 4, another handler on that side. And then they take it through to level 5, which is the guys that are actually asking for the horn and buying the horn and using the horn and consuming the horn.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. And
That's how
sometimes
it
it
works.
is very quick. Sometimes it's really quick. You can have a poaching today and you know that they're gone within 48 hours. But other times, the horns form part of a consignment where it's with a whole bunch of other wildlife stuff. It can be ivory, it can be lion bone, it can be skins, it can be hornbill beaks, it can be rare wood, it can be, you just don't know how they're going to mix and match what they want to get to the end user. And so, again, like James is saying, if one of those horns is in one of those consignments, even if it's in one of those big shipping containers, if it goes through one of those nuclear detectors, it will be detected. So that's kind of how it goes on the ground. So that's how we did it to protect those animals, and the vets and a lot of wildlife people to do amazing work, like if animals get injured. Something else I wanted to mention. It's exceptionally rare that a poacher will use a helicopter. They rely on stealth. They rely on hideouts and not being seen and, not leaving behind evidence and things like that. So they want to go in, they want to get the job done, and they want to get out because the situation is it's a deadly game. Remember, the poachers will be armed, but so are the rangers. The rangers have been turned into soldiers. And it's a scary thing. And these men and women are away from their families for long periods of time, and they do it out of passion. So we are bringing this hopeful nuclear solution into people's worlds because we are just as passionate, and we're hoping that this is going to do what we do. Protect first, deter first, and if they're crazy enough to still come in, well, now we change the odds. Now it's no longer low risk, high reward. We want to change that to high risk, low reward. So that's the plan. That's the goal. That's the purpose behind the thinking.
Coming back to Jess's point, then, when they shoot these rhino, all too often they will leave behind a little baby, and it's one of the most distressing things you'll ever see is a 2 or 3 week old rhino calf trying to protect its mother. It's so sad. It doesn't know what's happening. It's on its own. It will try and protect even, the little baby calf trying to protect its slaughtered mother. There is no other way of describing it. And that's why it is so wonderful that we have people like the Rhino Orphanage who are very keen to work with us to develop this whole project. They are almost want in some ways to put themselves out of existence, because if we can protect the rhino, then their job is not so hard. But when you realize there are orphanages, there's more than one in Southern Africa, who are carrying 10, 20, 30, 40 rhino right from a very early age. And all of these animals are, if you like, the victims of their mother being poached almost exclusively. One or two you might find of those calves whose mother has died from natural reasons, but there is this entire network of orphanages that exist because people want to own rhino horn that has zero medicinal use. And as far as I'm concerned, it should have zero financial value.
So, do you want the poachers to know that there's an isotope inside the horn or not?
What we want is the following. We want the poacher to know that rhinos on a particular game farm have been treated, but we don't want them to know the specific animals that have been treated. And it's for two reasons. One, if they think animals are treated on the farm, they'll look elsewhere. But two, if they are still brazen enough to come on and poach an animal, we don't want them to know if their horn has radioactive material in it or not, because then they will take it and then it goes into the whole smuggling route. So they unwittingly are now exposing the current and new smuggling routes throughout from here in southern Africa to wherever the horn's final destination is. So it's like a sting operation in some ways. Is yes, we want to stop them coming onto the farm because we don't want the animals poached. That's first prize, is the people not poaching our animals. But the second prize is if that animal is unfortunately poached, then let's put them, let's attack their routes, if you like, by sending this beacon all the way down through the smuggling routes.
So, what are you guys doing to tell people in China and Vietnam that there's a chance that their rhino horn could be radioactive?
Oh, good
Yes.
question. Okay. Well, there's two parts to that. The first thing is that we have got so much interest around the world with regards to this project. And James has already done some interviews with China News. So the news is already there. But what did start is a conversation with the vice president of Wild Aid a couple of years ago with regards to how we can work with them when the time is right, so that with partners like them that are really, really good. I mean, have you seen Jackie Chan's videos that Wild Aid has done on the
Yeah.
pangolins and that? Okay, how cool are those? And they use stars. And they have this amazing communications campaign. So one of the things we don't want to do is try and do things from scratch. When it comes to things like communication, which is such an important thing, that's what human beings thrive on. We need to have factual communication. Why don't we work with these great partners like Wild Aid? They know how to help craft the message, and they also understand how to get the message into those communities and those particular countries with the people that are the ones that are the consumers, as it were. So we are going to be working with different organizations, like as an example, to help us spread the message in the right way in the places that it needs to be, like the consumer markets. So yeah, doing it with good partners and not reinventing the wheel. You know, the clock is ticking. We don't want to pretend like we know how to do it. I don't know how to start communicating in Vietnam. We need to work with people who do know how to communicate in Vietnam. So that's the plan.
So, what happened to the 20 rhinos that you've done, and what's next?
Well,
Well,
what's happened, the 20 rhinos that we put isotopes in are currently wandering around the game farm at Limpopo living their best rhino life. We're watching them on a daily basis to make sure that their health continues to be staying healthy, and we will go and do a sort of check on them because there's a team of lovely ladies who look after these animals on a daily basis, check out on them every day almost. I and my team will go up and we'll go and view them once a month, quicker if there's any concerns. Um, and we'll watch those animals now for the next 6 months. Get to the end of that, then the science, the research work for this part of the whole project is completed. Obviously, I then have to go and sit and write it all up. But at that point, beginning of January next year, provided everything is good, we roll it out and say invite people, speak to people and say we have this new technique. Would you like us to come and do it? And we are in the meantimes. Jess is now tells me this morning she's set up a wonderful plan to work with some schools in Limpopo to improve feminine hygiene there. So we're not sitting back and kind of sitting on our laurels for the next 6 months. We would seem to be getting even more busy than perhaps we thought we were going to be. So um, we finished the rhino research, and then we've got the elephant work, we've got the pangolin work, we've got the cycads. So I'm not retiring anytime soon, and I'm not going to let Jess retire anytime soon. And we are going to be looking to bring on young, enthusiastic individuals as well as time moves on.
Thank you so much for talking with me, Jessica and James. And thank you for watching. You can help animals by hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. I'll see you next time on Nature's Guardians. Bye.